different cutouts from newspapers about what's going on. Close by here, taking place this weekend, is the People's Summit, which is at Ryerson. There's a lot of educational things going on this weekend, and a few events, I guess, going on next week leading up to the G20.
Over 100 civil society groups from around Canada and the world will offer workshops and strategy sessions as thousands prepare for a massive organized protest. They will be dealing with a slew of social and environmental issues.
We hear that anger in your voice. We hear that passion. As one activist to another, I have huge respect for the fact that you went down to bear witness with your own eyes and have been such a passionate spokesperson on this cause. And certainly that message is being heard loud and clearly here in Toronto, where the G8 and G20 will be meeting. Edward J. Damos, thank you so much for your time here today.
Thank you guys very much for what you're doing. Again, I plead for the Canadians. All they have to do is just get online right now and go to YouTube and put in the short film BP doesn't want you to see. The short.
Thank you so much, Edward.
Keep a lookout. Protesters will be out. Workers could be even going on strike down near the Esplanade. So things are going on, and we'll be out. We're here, Toronto Truth Seekers, on the weekends. On Saturdays, you check us out. Check out next week at the, if you got it, just make sure you be prepared, be aware, stay safe, stay cautious if you're going to check out this protest, because you don't know what could happen.
And to ensure it's done in a peaceful, democratic process. It's never easy balancing security and democracy, but to date it's been done in an extraordinary, wonderful way by our Toronto police and by the NGOs who largely have been very peaceful in this process.
We'll be participating and supporting all of the events that will be taking place this week. Our big focus will be on the demonstration on Saturday, the People First demonstration, and the reason is that this is the place where the trade union movement, community, people's organizations will come together in one place and one time with all of the different pieces of a people's agenda in a united fashion. And we think that I said resistance is the most important part of this week's activities. So to unite all of those in one place at one time who are, struggling against the G8, G20 agenda, the corporate agenda, will be very important. We know that there are going to be different tactics employed by different organizations. Fine, good. In our view, we think that the most effective thing is to have as many people in the streets as possible.
Adam Vaughan, you said what would be great? Here's your minute. What would be great?
What would be great is you've got the OFL and a number of leading social agencies that are organizing Saturday's protests. It's part of what's driven some fear into people's hearts. It's part of why the school board's reacted the way it has. It'd be great if the OFL would make a gesture to the small community centres in my ward that now have to shoulder the responsibility of childcare. It'd be really nice if Sid Ryan would phone them up, Alexander Park in particular, Scatting Court, and said, here's some cash to help pay for the staff to make sure these kids feel safe during the summit protests.
So there it is. You had your chance. A plea from Adam Vaughan to Sid Ryan and those well-financed, rich unions that are disrupting everything. Do the right thing. Adam Vaughan, we'll be seeing you.
Integrated security unit on how we are going to provide transit services. The subway will continue to operate, and we've been saying that for a number of weeks. A number of the bus routes, Bay Bus being a good example, are going to have to be redirected around it. But the streetcars will, for the moment, be operating unimpeded because they're north of the barrier. Right. The big point, though, Stephen, is that this can change at any moment. And we know there's going to be protests. The question is what their form is, where they are. A lot of them will occur on major streets around this, which also happen to be streetcar networks. People should stay tuned because the streetcars are the ones that are most likely to be affected. And
by moving protests.
That's right. And we obviously, buses sometimes can be rerouted around that. Streetcars are a lot more problematic, and people are really going to need to stay tuned.
Shots were fired early this morning within a block of the G20 security fence, but despite a massive police presence in the area, the suspect managed to get away.
We are with Alan Bell now. He is the president of Globe Risk International. He has been on the ground in summits before. He is an expert on these things. Alan, does the report of the shots being fired cause you any concern with all the police around?
No, I don't think it's got anything to do with the G20. I think it's just a couple of guys either trying to get even or trying to impress people. No one tries to do things like that in that heavily policed area. There's more police on the ground in Toronto now than there has ever been for about the last 50 years. So I think it would be a foolhardy thing to do.
Do you think, Alan, the fact that the police saw the car, or they suspect the car was taking off from that, and they couldn't catch these people, do you think, does that cause you a problem?
Well, no, I mean, I believe it was off-duty police officers who actually saw it. They did get a plate number, and I believe they are now looking for that vehicle. So although they weren't able to apprehend the people because they were off-duty, they at least would have a plate number, so it shouldn't take too long before they apprehend them.
Alan, that's reassuring. Now, yesterday we had the first protest and the march around from Allen Gardens and along, I guess it was Dundas, and they briefly went into the Esso station there at Dundas and Church. From all accounts, the police were very generous, if you will, with these protesters, and a lot of people are saying that's why it didn't get out of hand. I don't know if you had any of the reports from that, but can you comment on that, the Toronto police and the way they deal with protests?
Well, I think at the moment everyone's feeling their way. I mean, the people who are here just to cause confrontation, that's the anarchists and the general lawless individuals who are going to get involved over the next four or 5 days. I think they're feeling their way out, and as are the police. The police do not want to be seen to be overacting because some of these demonstrations and some of these organizations are friendly and they just want to voice their opinions. The fact that they could get hijacked from time to time by these anarchists and people who are just here to cause trouble obviously is some cause for concern. And the police do not want to be seen to be overreacting this early on.
People are coming together in hopes of shedding light on human rights issues. Let's go live now to CP24's Sue Scambatti. She's at China's consulate on St. George Street. Hi, Sue.
Oh, hi, Rena. Well, Falun Gong practitioners are here along with human rights activists, and they have a message for Stephen Harper.
So we've gathered here in Toronto to urge our Prime Minister to raise the Falun Gong issue, specifically with Hu Jintao on his meeting here at the G20, because Falun Gong remains one of the #1 atrocities happening to innocent people in China today. We also want to urge him not to be bought off, not to have his silence bought off by the Chinese regime, because we have proof that the regime is trying hard to silence their atrocities by pressuring our government officials to remain silent.
We had a professor on this afternoon from Ryerson saying that if it all goes well, it's going to be a great boost to Toronto worldwide.
Absolutely. This is it's a very important gathering. It is 2 annual gatherings in the same week, which is historic. But it is one which, as we emerge, Canada much more comfortably than most of the other countries of the world, as we emerge from the global recession last year, Prime Minister Harper as host, and the other leaders of the G8 and the G20 and the smaller countries, which are also invited, need to agree to continue the stimulation of our economies and keeping our markets open, so that in fact all of the world comes out of the recession, and that we don't see, as we've seen recently in Europe, 1 or 2 or 3 economies and failed banking systems drag us all back into the recession.
What's Truth Seeker Tom got to say, though? That's the question.
I know one thing that will not be discussed at the G20 meeting is the $175 million that was stolen by the American Red Cross for the earthquake relief in Haiti. Now, that doesn't surprise me, considering that every disaster, every against the third world is always about money. Whether it's war, whether it's drugs, whether it's weapons, what have you. It's a scam. Okay, no media outlet has ever addressed where the money from the American Red Crosses went. No one. There's $175 million in donations that just went gone. Where is that? Not to mention that over 90% of the tsunami relief fund never made it to Asia. But yet only one media outlet covered that, and then it went dead. Why aren't those issues being raised, not only by the G20, but by the media as well?